Every year in the draft, it's every team's dream to find those diamonds in the rough that go on to become important contributors or even franchise-altering superstars down the line. Well, obviously not all of these players are able to stay with the team that drafted them. Pretty much every team in the league has at least one key player on their roster that was overlooked on draft night and has gone on to outperform his projection. So, here are the biggest draft steals on all 30 NBA teams. Let's start with the Atlanta Hawks. Now there is some decent competition for this spot, with guys like Kent Bazemore and Taurean Prince both proving to be reliable NBA contributors. But in the end, the pick's gotta be the bouncy big man John Collins, who was the 19th pick in the 2017 draft, and he's coming off of a 20-10 campaign in just his sophomore season. If he can keep it up, the pick and roll duo of him and Trae Young should be deadly for years to come. Next up, we have Boston. Now I felt Scary Terry breathing over my shoulder, but I still had to give this one to Gordon Hayward. Yeah, I know, it's no secret that he struggled throughout this year to fit in with the talented Celtics roster. But we still can't forget those all-star level seasons he had in Utah, putting up 20 a game. In an alternate universe without Kyrie, Terry probably would have taken this spot, but Gordon's history of success gets him on the list. After that, we have Brooklyn. Now the Nets are a fun one, because pretty much all of their good players aside from D'Angelo were steals. Now that mainly includes Jared Allen, Karis LeVert, and the guy who made this list, Spencer Dinwiddie, who was picked 38th in 2014 and has become a more than capable all-around guard for the young squad. After the Nets, we got Charlotte. Now there's a pretty solid chance that this player is going to retire in a few weeks, but for now, we all know it's got to be Tony Parker, who, after getting picked 28th in his draft class, has gone on to become a 4-time champ and future Hall of Famer. Not much more even needs to be said. The man's a legend in the game, so let's keep it pushing. Next up, we got the Chicago Bulls, who have a solid young core featuring 3 top 10 picks in Wendell Carter, Chris Dunn, and Lauri Markkanen, alongside the guy who makes this list, the former 13th overall pick and the 2-time dunk contest champ, Zach LaVine, who proved he could do more than just jump last season by leading the young team with a sweet 24-5-5. You know the Timberwolves, who packaged LaVine to pick up Jimmy Butler a couple years back, are probably kicking themselves over this one, as LaVine has thoroughly outshined their former number 1 pick Andrew Wiggins, who they chose to sign to a max deal. Moving on, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are honestly made up of a weird combination of win-now vets like Kevin Love and Tristan Thompson, and developing young players like Chetty Osman and Colin Sexton. But for me, the discussion for this team came down to 2 guys, Jordan Clarkson and JR Henny God 35,000 Tattoos Smith, who both went mid to late first round in their drafts. Now, despite the fact that Clarkson's career numbers appear to be a little better, I had to give the nod to the Henny God, for the prolonged success that he's had in his career, and for having proven his ability to play a key role on the biggest of stages. Next, we got the Dallas Mavericks. Now the obvious answer would have been Dirk, who got picked at number 9, but the big guy decided to hang him up. Now I've been trying to avoid choosing lottery guys, much less top 5 picks on this list for obvious reasons, but I'm gonna have to go with one here, and that's the unicorn Kristaps Porzingis, who went 4th. No, we don't look at him as that late round steal, because he's not. But hey, the dude went after Jahlil Okafor. I don't care what you say, that's a steal. Moving on, we got the Denver Nuggets. Now there are a surplus of options for Denver, ranging from Paul Millsap to Isaiah Thomas to the potential steal of last year's draft, Michael Porter Jr. But I think we all know I gotta go with the Joker here, Nikola Jokic, who went with the 41st pick and has since become an all-NBA level big man. Speaking of big men, let's move on to Detroit. Now Andre Drummond was in the back of my mind for this pick, but this one has to go to Reggie Jackson, who was the 24th pick and has developed into a very solid starting point guard for a decent playoff team. Next, Golden State. Now the Warriors dynasty has literally been built on draft steals, so this one was obviously a super tough one. I mean, it's hard not to pick Steph, who was picked 7th and became a top 5 point guard of all time. But come on now, I had to show some love to Draymond, who was picked 35th overall and has become one of the best defenders and all-around contributors of this era. Moving on, we got Houston. Now I'm not going to take too long on this one. The answer is Clint Capella, who was picked 25th and has become an elite rim protector and pick and roller for this James Harden-led Rockets squad. Let's keep it pushing. On to Indiana. Now this one was actually really tough. From Miles Turner, who got picked 11th, to Darren Collison, who went 21st, to Wes Matthews, that didn't even get drafted at all. But I'm actually going to throw a curveball and go with Domantas Sabonis, who was picked 11th by OKC and played a huge role on the underdog Pacers squad while putting up a solid 14-9 on just 25 minutes a game last year. Hold on guys, look who we got up next. The moment we've all been waiting for, the LA Clippers. The Clippers are that team where you can just pick your poison. I mean, this is an all-time underdog group that is just the definition of grit and guts, which they showed all season on the court. I mean, basically 5 of their 6 best players were all draft steals. In the end, the choice was too hard that I had to just break my own rules and pick 2 guys, Lou Williams and Pat Bev. Now, if we're being honest, the real pick is Lou Will, who, after being picked in the mid-second round, has gone on to become one of the best pure scorers of his generation and probably the best bench player ever. But at the same time, I feel like it'd be a crime to leave Pat Bev off this list, who's made a career on playing fearlessly and shutting down some of the best in the business. Now moving on to that other team in LA. This is again one of those teams where it's just really obvious. Shout out to Josh Hart, who was definitely an absolute steal at the 30th pick, but this one's gotta be Kyle Kuzma. The guy put up 19-5 in his second season and is ironically looking like the best of all the young prospects the Lakers have drafted. Moving on, we got Memphis. Now I'm gonna be real, the pickings for Memphis are pretty slim. 5 years ago, Chandler Parsons would have been the easy pick, but the dude has stunk it up for the past few years. I'm not gonna overthink this one, so I'm just gonna go with Dillon Brooks, who's been a solid contributor for this Memphis team over the 1.5 seasons that he's played so far in the league. Alright, moving on to Miami. The Heat really tear me apart because my brain is telling me to go with one of the much more proven options of Hassan Whiteside or Goran Dragic. But my heart is telling me to go with the younger, more exciting Josh Richardson, who was the 40th pick in 2015, and looks like the guy that I want to build around in the post-D-Wade era. And you know what? I'm going with my heart. J. Rich makes the list. Next up, Milwaukee, it's Giannis. Moving on, but I do have to give a shout out to guys like Chris Middleton, Malcolm Brogdon, and even Eric Bledsoe, who all could have easily made the list on probably the majority of other teams, but it's Giannis. Now next up, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves, who, let's be real, have not exactly been known for their scouting department throughout their history. But they did just happen to trade for somebody this season that's actually been one of the biggest steals in recent memory, and that's Robert Covington, who went completely undrafted and has become a first-team all-defense level wing. Next up, we got another no-brainer with Drew Holiday for the New Orleans Pelicans, who was picked 17th in the 2009 draft and has really become an all-star level guard and really one of the few guys that's been able to help Anthony Davis. Now, on to the New York Knicks. Despite earning the worst record in the league, the Knicks actually have more than one guy that could fit on this list. A case could definitely be made for Alonzo Trier, who came out of the blue last year as an undrafted rookie and put up 11 a game. But this one's definitely got to go to DeAndre Jordan, who, after being selected 35th by the Clippers in 2008, went on to become an all-star and an all-defense level center throughout that Lob City era. Next up, OKC. Now from Andre Roberson to Steven Adams to Jeremy Grant, there were several options to consider for this team. But in the end, we all knew Paul George, who was picked 10th in his draft, was making this list. So let's not complicate it for ourselves. On to Orlando. Now this team has a couple of interesting options, including late first rounder Evan Fournier. But this one's kind of another no-brainer with Nikola Vucevic. After getting picked 16th and traded to the Magic, the guy's grown to be able to average a consistent 20 and 10, and even actually just made his first All-Star team. Alright, we're getting to the final stretch. Next, we got the Philadelphia 76ers. For Philly, although you definitely do have to give props to Tobias Harris for developing into a fringe all-star type player after getting picked 19th, this one's easy and it's Jimmy Butler. The two-way star has left his mark on every stop of his NBA career as a tough, gutsy wing that will hit big shots in your eye and then lock you down on the other end. And that goes for everybody, including his own teammates. I'm looking at you, Andrew. After that, Phoenix. Now, the Suns really don't have many late picks at all on their roster because they've just had a rough ride these last few years, let's keep it real. So, this pick's very easy. While I do think that second rounder Tyler Johnson deserves a shout out, the choice is pretty obviously Devin Booker, who was picked 13th. Charging ahead, we got Portland. Both CJ McCollum and Yusuf Nurkic were pretty decent steals in their own right as mid-first rounders. But after his most recent playoff run, I gotta give it to the Curry bro. Seth Curry, who went completely undrafted and has carved his role out in the league, deserves the spot for the Blazers. Next, we got Sacramento. Now Sacramento is another one of these teams that are almost entirely made of high draft picks at this point. But they do have one player that's proven to be a great steal for them from the late first round, and that's Bogdanovic. No, not Bojan Bogdanovic from Indiana, who's also a solid steal by the way. I'm talking Bogdan, who's become one of the better young shooters in the game and a great compliment to De'Aaron Fox in that backcourt. After that, we've got a team that's made a reputation on snagging these late round sleepers, and that's San Antonio, who were obviously the original team to draft guys like Tony Parker, Manu Ginobili, and Kawhi Leonard, three of the biggest steals of the generation. But for their current roster, I thought about being edgy and picking Dejounte Murray or Derek White, but this time I just have to go with my brain, which tells me that the choice is, of course, DeMar DeRozan, who was picked 9th and has become a perennial all-star. And fittingly, next up we got the team that originally drafted him, Toronto. Now, the answer for this one is obvious, and it's Kawhi. But if you really look at it, damn near everybody on this team deserves a shout out for being a steal. So, shout out to Pascal Siakam, to Kyle Lowry, to Serge Ibaka, to Danny Green, and to Jeremy Lin. You guys didn't make the cut, but it's not your fault. Now we're on to the final two. For the first of the pair, we got the Utah Jazz. Now this is the pick that I've been waiting the whole video to make. I love this pick, and you're gonna find out why. First off, all the respect in the world to Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert. But give me the cold-blooded killer Joe Ingles here all day, every day. The Aussie sharpshooter has gone from an undrafted free agent to one of the most consistent snipers in the game, all while looking like a 40-year-old dad. Joe Ingles is just an icon. He's the Brian Scalabrine of our era and a way better player than the White Mamba. He gets this spot 10 times out of 10. Don't at me. Alright, finally, last and probably not least, we have a nice and simple pick for the Wizards, and that's Trevor Ariza, a guy that's proven himself as a reliable starting caliber forward on almost every team he's been a part of after being picked 43rd back in 2004. So that's gonna do it. Let me know if you agree or disagree with my picks in the comments. But just know, if any of you come after Joe Ingles, I'm coming for you. But that's all I got for this one, guys. Leave a like, hit the subscribe. Till next time, I'm out.